The Loose Pass Rugby Podcast with Hugh Griffin.
Welcome to the latest episode of the Loose Pass Rugby Podcast, where we talk about anything and everything to do with rugby, and sometimes we just talk a lot of nonsense. So, welcome back, Hugh, and on a Monday for a change.
On a Monday for a change, yes. I've got a day off work today, off work, so I'm doing just YouTube work. So I said, hey, let's talk. And so we are.
Yeah, there we go. So let's start with the usual. I see you're wearing an interesting jersey. I can see the maple leaf, just sort of peeping out there on the camera. What's that shirt?
Yep. So it's exciting in there because we're into September now, which means we're back into long sleeve jersey season. And this is new to me, Canada. Canada jersey. So this is by a company called Ellis. I think it's called Ellis Rugby. Yes, Ellis Rugby.
Ellis, like the initials.
No, it's just Ellis, Ellis Rugby. And they're posh retro jerseys. So posh is, if people don't know, is an English word for like expensive, kind of premium type
know
thing.
What posh means.
I'm just checking. We're a multicultural society.
You might be out living behind a rock or something, or under a rock for that matter.
I have had. Anyway, I work where I work. There's lots of different people from different countries, and sometimes I remember someone has asked me what posh means in the past.
Oh,
so justifying myself, I'm not calling you stupid. It's just I have had people ask me that in the past. Okay, so I wouldn't normally have paid this much for a jersey like this, but it was on sale, so I got it. It is still more than I normally would have paid for a jersey. I think it was £50 for this, which is more than I would normally pay. I normally buy second-hand ones, which costs £25-ish. Anyway, this is very nice, and this has been getting a lot of compliments. It kind of the white is kind of, I know the light in here isn't perfect, but it's kind of off-white. It's kind of cream color, so it looks kind of aged, even though it's brand new. And yeah, I've had my eye on a Canada jersey for a while. I was looking at one by a company called Toffs for a little bit, which is the same kind of thing. And yeah, with Canada now qualified as of this weekend for the Rugby World Cup in 2027, and of course their women's team doing very well, continuing to do very well. I thought I'd wear it. And I've got a podcast out all about Canadian rugby, which you can find now on the HG Rugby channel. Deep diving men's Canadian rugby, women's Canadian rugby, sevens rugby in Canada, all these things. Please check it out because not many people have so far. So I'll be really appreciative of that. Go Canada.
I'll put the link up here, and I put out a little map this weekend at Harry's insistence, or it was Harry's suggestion. We made a map of all the podcasts over the world that we made this weekend. It was you in England, Andre in Japan, Harry in New Zealand, and myself in South Africa. And so now we're talking about Canadian rugby as well. So I'm sure we'll find someone who's interested at least. I know of one guy who's definitely going to watch it. I'm sure.
You need someone over in the Americas because I saw your map and there's a whole 2 continents there with no
but it's Harry,
rugby.
man. The one day he's in freaking in the east, and the next day he's back in the west. He lives in America, so I was waiting for him to go back. But if I can do one, I'm going to do one of you tomorrow. Then I'm going to update the map and show Harry in New Zealand, and I'm going to show him in America at the same time. So that's going to work.
The travel budget of Harry Jones knows no bounds.
No, I mean, one day when I'm grown up, all grown up, I'm going to do that as well. Anyway. Right, so just talk to me about that Canadian thing you just mentioned. We'll get to the Pacific Nations just now, but they've qualified for the World Cup, and I've never seen a team so happy when another team beat another team. They're all watching it. What happened there, just briefly?
Yeah, double trouble, because obviously for them to qualify, they needed America to USA to lose, and obviously there's the big rivalry between Canada and USA. It's a bit tense between the two nations at the moment politically, so they enjoy it a lot. That's something that we talked about in my Canadian pod. Is I asked Karen, the journalist who I spoke to, is it fun beating the USA? And basically, yes, is the answer. So Japan played USA in the Pacific Nations Cup on Saturday. Because Canada had already beaten USA, all they needed was for USA not to win that game, and they'd qualified. We didn't think that they would win this game, and they didn't. So that's why all the Canadian players were wearing Japan tops, because they wanted Japan to win, which is funny because Japan actually battered Canada the week before. But yeah, so that's a done deal. Big surprise, really. We all thought that Canada would be struggling to qualify for this World Cup. They fell outside of the top 24 in the world rankings not long ago, so they're very happy, very happy.
What's the story of their coach? I mean, there was a lot of controversy about their coach. Has that changed, or was it a new guy, or was it still the same guy just doing better? What's happening?
Yeah, look, all of the sounds were so they were Canada men were previously coached by a Welshman called Kingsley Jones, who had previously coached the Dragons. He also coached Germany, I think, as well, and was an assistant coach at Russia. A very he's had a lot of jobs. And whenever Canada lost, the story became about him, and I didn't really like it by the end because it just came about bashing this guy, and it became cool to bash this coach. Now, reading between the lines, was everything Kingsley Jones's fault? No. Could he have been better? Yes. So it's kind of, it's kind of yes, it was a problem, but it wasn't the only problem. That coach has now changed, which of course means that now that he's gone and Canada are doing better, the story is that it's because of the change of coach, and now people are bashing him even more. I don't think it's as simple as that. I think that bringing a couple of players back has helped that a lot. The Canada Rugby has had a change of CEO as well, so it's never that simple. But that's what the optics look like. And even if it was true that this coach was such a huge problem, I think it was really, it got really distasteful by the end of it. Just became cool to bash this guy. And at the end of the day, it's a human being. And if from what I've spoken to from people who are journalists in Canadian rugby or have actually directly worked with Rugby Canada in a coaching capacity, even if he wasn't perfect, which he wasn't by all accounts, there were other far bigger problems above and around him as well. And I think he became a scapegoat for the rugby community, to be honest.
All right, that's Pacific Nations. So what about America now? Are they out of the World Cup? Can they still qualify?
So, okay, shall we talk about this now then?
Yeah.
Okay, right. So it was a big, exciting weekend in the world of qualifying for the Men's Rugby World Cup in 2027. We now have, in the Pacific Nations Cup, because Japan beats USA, it means that Canada are qualified. And because Fiji beat Samoa, it means Tonga are qualified, which is very exciting. We were all quite worried about Tonga for a minute there, but they are now qualified. Fantastic. And then in South America, kind of the secret game of the weekend, Uruguay played Chile to decide the automatic spot for South America. So it's a bit controversial. South America had 3 teams at the Rugby World Cup last time out, but now have only 1 automatic spot besides Argentina. So Argentina are already there. So Uruguay and Chile were playing each other to decide who gets the other one. It was a 2-legged playoff. Uruguay won the first one, comfortably-ish, by over a score. This was the second leg this weekend. Chile won in Uruguay. Now, that's a big surprise. Uruguay have been a step clear of the rest of South America, apart from Argentina, for a while. But Chile went there, won. Uruguay, I think, got a red card. I think got a red card towards the end. We're down to 13 players at one point. So Chile won the game, but didn't overcome the points difference. So Uruguay qualify is with 1 win apiece. But Chile are going to go into now a playoff with whoever finishes bottom in the Pacific Nations Cup. The bottom place in the Pacific Nations Cup is decided this weekend coming in a game between USA and Samoa. I think that Samoa are going to win that. I think Samoa gave Fiji a proper test in nothing else but their physicality. For Samoa's physicality, this is the thing about Samoa, this is the thing about rugby, is it kind of your skills and things are all great. If you're just more physical than the other team, that's probably going to help you a lot. And I was massively impressed by Samoa's physicality. We know about the size of Samoan players. We know about the brute force, their identity, their DNA as a rugby nation. So I think that America aren't going to be able to cope with that. If I give you an example, in the game against Japan, USA got 88 post-contact meters from 120 carries. So less than 1 post-contact meter per carry.
So they actually went backwards.
Not... yeah, it was bad. I don't think that USA are going to be able to cope with Samoa, so I think Samoa are going to beat them. And then having watched a bit of Uruguay versus Chile and having watched Chile earlier this year as well, they're very similar to Argentina. It's quite cool, actually. The DNA of South American rugby is it's all very kind of lean, skillful running players who can beat you, who can, great passing skills, fast players. And again, I just don't think that USA are going to be able to cope with that. I don't think that USA are physical enough, and I don't think they're skillful enough. So I think what that means is that USA are going to lose to Samoa. I think they're then going to play Chile. I think they're going to lose to Chile. And then I think that they're going to go into a final qualification tournament against Namibia, who we love, Belgium, who we don't know that much about. I think Brazil, I can't remember if Brazil have officially qualified or not, but they only have to beat Paraguay to qualify. And with all due respect to qualify to Paraguay, Brazil are better than them. And then I think it's going to be USA. And then God only knows what's going to happen. God only knows.
No, Namibia is, of course, in that tournament because they lost against Zimbabwe, remember, in that African tournament. Yeah, interesting. All right, so now we jumped ahead to the Pacific Nation. What's happening this weekend with the Pacific Nation? You said USA versus Samoa. Is it then going to be, who else is going to be playing?
USA versus Samoa, that's the most important one because that decides a World Cup spot. So that's exciting. Definitely tune in for that. Then, and that's at a palatable time, I think, as well. I think that's 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening, UK or South African time. Then you've got Japan versus Tonga in one semi-final, which Japan will win. But it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see how well Tonga do, but Japan will win that game. And then it will be Fiji against Canada in the other semi-final, which Fiji will win. I don't think Canada are going to be able to cause them any problems, to be honest. The thing about Fiji is when they play lesser teams, with all due respect, teams lower down in the rankings, they kind of don't concentrate so hard and they can look a bit unconvincing, but I expect them to win anyway. And then it will be a grand final between Japan and Fiji. But it's rugby, it's nations that we love, so watch it anyway.
Right. Yesterday, Sunday, you had a bit of a day out and you attended the 2 matches, actually, South Africa versus France. And it was the other one, I can't even remember. But you
Brazil
were there.
versus Italy.
Brazil versus Italy, of course, in the same group as us. But for me, the most important thing was that you were recognized there, but you were also recognized for your association with Megafoon Rugby. I mean, that really, you actually said to me after, Emily, do you realize what I'm telling you here? So, tell me about that.
Yeah, mentioned it in the match reaction briefly yesterday. Is a group of guys came over. I'm very sorry, I'm terrible with names. But you came over and you said, actually, they came over to my friend Hattie first because Hattie had been in a video on my channel. And they came over to her and said, hey, we've seen you on Hugh Griffin's channel. Is he here? And she said, yes. And eventually later on, they found me. And just, there was 5 or 6 of them. They all shook my hand. They all said, hello, we know you from Megafoon Rugby. And then we followed your channel off the back of that. They said they really liked it. They appreciated the guy said, I like your bull shirt. My mum would be very proud of you for wearing that, which is nice. But yeah, it's great. It makes your day when things like that happen. I was also sat next to someone in the crowd, and when I was recording myself speaking and things during the games, after a while, she turned to me and said, "Are you making a YouTube video?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "Oh, that's cool." And we started talking about it and things. And she's going to be in that video. Guy filmed her speaking a bit. So that's the best thing. That makes everything worthwhile. That makes everything fun. Meeting people at games. It's not about being recognized. It's not about feeling like you're famous or anything. It's just about knowing that something that you've made has been enjoyed by someone else. Yeah. That's what it is. That's what makes everything worthwhile.
Well, I agree with you. What somebody made a comment this weekend that said to me that we've built a nice ecosystem of contributors on Megafoon specifically, with you and Harry and Andre and everybody else we're talking. Also the Afrikaans channel, Rockford Rugby. We have a few podcasts there with CJ van der Linde and Ario Gart, everybody else. So I like that. That's just kind of the thing is now coming together, Like what did Hannibal say in the A-team? I love it when a plan comes together. So this is where I'm getting at. So I like it. It's getting there.
Yeah, the community is the best thing about this. This is something that maybe we can speak to when I'm a bit longer in the tooth, but there's kind of it is very much a community of content creators, and there's like tiers to it. Obviously you can, people can guess who's at the top. But the best thing about doing this, for me anyway, is getting to make friends with people in America, in South Africa, in New Zealand, in wherever it is, in France, wherever, people who I would never have even spoken to. if we didn't make rugby podcasts, and now I'm on WhatsApp talking to them every day. It's amazing. It's the best thing that's about it. So yeah, that's what it has been life changing, and yeah, so that is better than any kind of small amount of money that we get off it, or of a video getting lots of views or anything. That's like nice, but the best thing is meeting people and speaking to them for sure.
Talking about the rugby community, Harry let it slip on X last night, but we're going to be speaking to Tim Cocker of X Chasers this week on the Lekker Rugby Pod. So that should be an interesting one.
He loves his French rugby. He's got
I know
the broadcast rights for the Pro de Deux on his French channel.
You told me. Yeah.
Make sure to ask him about that. He loves French rugby. I don't know if he lives in France or just is in France a lot or whatever. But yeah, one Egg Chasers. When you go on your YouTube analytics, is behind the curtain for people. When you go on your YouTube analytics, it tells you what people who watch your videos also watch, and Egg Chasers is always in there for me. I don't know about you.
Yeah,
of
definitely.
people watch that. One of probably only behind Squidge in terms of how big of a channel is. So yeah, I shall look forward to that, because he's not just a rugby man, he's a businessman as well, and I think there's a lot to be learned from him.
Yeah, actually, yeah, he and Harry ran into each other at the second test in Cape Town, Wallabies versus Springboks, and they got to talking. So that's where that came from. So I'm actually looking forward to that. It's going to be interesting. All right, enough of praising our own behinds here. Let's talk about the Women's Rugby World Cup that you attended yesterday. So first and foremost, I asked you last night, but I'll ask you again for people who haven't seen it. I saw sold out stands, lots of people getting very excited, and lots of South African supporters there. What was your impressions?
I love it. I'll be sad when it's over. I'm going to look to go to a quarterfinal this Saturday, I think. I feel like at some point someone's going to tell me I can't go because I'm busy, but I don't know what the reason is. It's just fun. Everybody's turning up, going fun. You know, maybe it's not the most hardcore rugby crowd ever, but that means that it's much less tense. It's much less. I don't want to use the word aggressive, because I think that that's painting men's rugby fans in a bad light, but it's very a community, and everyone's there to just enjoy the match that they've come to watch. Yes, they're cheering on their team, because there are fans of teams, and of course I don't want to say that there aren't people who know lots about women's rugby and follow it all the time, because of course there are. But generally the vibe is there of, we're just here to see this cool event, and it doesn't really matter what the outcome is, and that just makes it fun. The ticket prices are super accessible. So I was sat in a padded seat in my game yesterday, and I paid £15 for it. It's just, yeah, it's super easy. And then I snuck into the posh bar at the back of the stand as well. I don't know whether I was allowed there, but I went in anyway. Proper taking inspiration from Harry. Just walk in. If I'm not supposed to be there, someone will tell me to leave.
Yes, looks like you belong there, and nobody will question you.
Well, it's in my head. I got told off by the top 14 this morning. I posted a clip of a game, and they DM'd me on Twitter and said, please don't post clips. That's not allowed. Which is, you know, but the fact that they DM'd me rather than just doing a copyright strike or something is it was quite polite. So I think I would like to think, I'm convincing myself that they realize that the intentions are to celebrate how cool something was, and they're just politely telling me it's not to be done rather than shooting me down in flames. But anyway, back to what it's like at a women's game. Great. If you've got an opportunity to go, I really, really hope that after this World Cup, next time that the Women Box play a game in Cape Town or wherever it is, more people go to it, because it's a great vibe. It's fun. The rugby's good. You know, I get frustrated when people say like, oh yeah, but it's only women's rugby, or when I draw comparisons between men's rugby and women's rugby, people are like, you can't compare the two. Yeah, you can. It's the same sport. And yeah, you know, obviously women are smaller, you know, yeah, we all know this. This isn't groundbreaking facts, but you know, a scrum's a scrum, a line out's a line out, a try's a try. You know, there was a time 10 years ago where some women's rugby matches were tough to watch. I'm just going to be honest with you, because if I'm honest with you in that regard, then you can trust me when I say these days, if you like rugby, you'll like women's rugby. There's no caveats, there's no excuses. So I really hope that next time that the Women Box play down in South Africa, people turn up to it, because you guys love rugby and you love the Springboks. there they are. Give them the support.
No, same for me last night. I was watching the game and we were losing badly. But I still got excited and I still felt, got goosebumps when they awarded that final try and everything else that Nadine Roos scored. Now, we talked about Nadine Roos at length last night. Let's talk about some of the other players.
Yeah, Dolph, I think we mentioned yesterday in the instant reaction. I was very impressed with her positioning, if nothing else. I'm just going to bring up the team sheets here because I'm very bad with names, like I said earlier. So I'll just bring up the team sheet. So, I'm really going to struggle with some of these pronunciations, mate. The 23 for South Africa, Ngwevu. Ngwevu. Ngwevu, when she came off the bench, I thought had a massive impact, literally smashing into people, getting over the gain line. Absolutely phenomenal to watch. The girls who were sat next to me, they were cheering on the box, but they didn't know that much about them. So they're just referring to like the players, like that one with the white hair. She's really good. And that was Ngwevu, or Hele, obviously, is the other iconic one. Qawe, is that Kawe?
Qawe, Kawe, yeah, Kawe.
Kawe. Yeah, Kawe got the red card. That was never a red card, by the way. We covered that in the reaction yesterday. There was so much mitigation. I expect that to be overturned. There's a player called Hanekom as well, which is quite fun. Obviously, we know Cameron Hanekom from the Bulls. She came on at number 2. I thought that Zulu did well enough at number 10. I think probably we expect to see Libby come back next week. But yeah, I don't want to go through the whole team and just say everybody was great because that's not very insightful. But those were probably the main ones that stood out to me.
Interesting thing for me is Swys said in the press release afterwards, he rested 9 players and he gave 9 players the opportunity to play in the World Cup for them to feel what it's like and everything else. But those 9 players that have been rested means they've basically kept their powder dry for that big game next week against New Zealand. I mean, it's going to be tough, but still. I mean, Swys, you talked about set moves against Italy last weekend, not that many against France this weekend. Sort of like I just wanted to get this game behind them. And I'm telling you, all the focus is on that New Zealand game. You agree with me?
Yeah. We debated it, didn't we? After they beat Italy, we said, what do you do for this final pool game that doesn't matter? And you could say that even if in all the best case scenarios, South Africa was still very unlikely to beat France. And, there's the saying, which is hope for the best, plan for the worst. And I think that's what Swys did. What I really liked about his statement that's been put out since by South Africa Rugby Union is that you could tell he was hurting. I saw him after the game and I could tell that he was hurting. And he said in the statement that we played badly and they weren't happy and they weren't proud of it, that's not nothing because there are some one-sided scorelines in this World Cup. And, just let's be absolutely brutally honest. There are some teams that are happy to be here. And that when they play against a top team like France, who are a top team, they kind of expect to be beaten. So they don't get upset when they do get beaten. So to have someone in charge who's going, no, I'm not happy with that. I'm not happy with that scoreline. I'm not happy with that performance, let alone the scoreline. He said, we didn't play well. That's going to set you in really good stead. Because I think if I'm coming this from a Wales fan point of view, I think there's a massive problem in Welsh rugby of not just women's, but generally of teams okay with being beaten. So if you've got people there who aren't okay with being beaten, I think that's really going to help you. So, but at the same time, I think it's also true. He said in his own release that we rested 9 frontline players. You don't do that if you're going all out trying to beat someone, are you? So there's your answer: is that they're putting all of their emphasis on the Black Ferns. It's going to be really tough. The Black Ferns nilled Ireland yesterday.
Just nilled them. 40-0'd them. I mean, it's a big score, Oh.
It's a big score, but if you're a top athlete, you want to play in big games, and this is a big game.
The one thing that he said in that press release that caught my eye was the fact he said they were dominated. The Springboks were dominated in the scrums, and he never expected that. That was quite an eye-opening statement as well.
It was, and I think you have to say fair play to France because they, like I said in the reaction yesterday, that's the best I've seen them play in a long time, and I think they deserve a lot of credits. But yes, that was the kind of, I wasn't expecting it either at the first scrum when they were going backwards. I thought, ooh. Well, if the Springboks haven't got this, then it's going to be a long day for them. And so it proved. So, yeah, I can imagine that was difficult for Swayze to watch the scrum going backwards because he didn't expect it. I don't think anybody did.
Well, no, no chat about women's rugby will be complete without talking about Ilona Maher. Big part of the reason, I hope I pronounced it correctly, the big part of the reason why there's so much focus on women's rugby nowadays is because of her. She's got a huge Instagram following. I think she's the most popular rugby player in the world, women's rugby player. She's playing for the USA, who's not exactly shooting the lights out, but, talk to me about her.
Yeah, she's a massive deal. She's a massive deal. Like you said, the most followed on social media rugby player in the world. There's a debate to be had about how much of her following is specifically because of rugby. She's been on Dancing with the Stars in America and stuff, so she's a celebrity in her own right. However, I would like to talk about her. I would like to talk about Ilona Maher in terms of a rugby player because you get spoken about so much in terms of all the other extra stuff. I'd like to speak about her in terms of a player. Now, the thing that Ilona Maher has that makes her special, and I do mean special, is her physical attributes. Amazing. For a women's rugby player, she is a big player and she uses that physicality. You talk about some players who are big but don't use it. She uses it and she will go into contact, and there is no rugby team in the world where you do not want a player who will run straight at someone and smash straight over them, and she will do that. She's also added an offloading game, or at least since I've been watching her in 15, she's added her offloading. When I watched her in the PWR playing for Bristol, she was getting into contact above players and getting the arm free to get the offload away, which, Sonny Bill Williams style. It was very effective. So the potential is there. There's always going to be a need for players who can do that. I felt frustrated watching her play for the USA because I did not think that the USA used her correctly. And I think this is on the USA's coaches because she kept coming in to play number 10 at first receiver. The only reason that she's going to be doing that so often is because she's been asked to do that. Now, maybe it's that she's got a great pass. Great. But her superpower compared to everybody else is as a ball carrier and getting over the gain line. What situations do you want her in? Or conversely, what situations would you rather have her in than any other player on her team? And it's not standing at first receiver. So surely get someone else to do that. I felt frustrated because I did not think that they played to her strengths, and that's on the coaches for me. They need to be confident enough to sit her down and say, look, this is what makes you a standout rugby player. This is how we're going to use you. She didn't score a try in this World Cup, which is a bit of a shame. Not even against Samoa. Yes, she had great carries, great moments. When she was in space running at players who were smaller than her. Those are those situations that you have to manufacture. If you've got Ilona Maher in your team, you have to get her in situations where she's in a physical mismatch with the defender and she can get those line breaks, those defenders beaten, get those offloads away. And USA didn't do that enough for me. So that's disappointing. So I think that's on the coaches, not using her to the optimum of her potential. And, we don't know what she's going to do next, but if she does carry on in the 15s game, I would like to see her utilized in the way that's going to contribute to the team most, which is running at people and skittling them like a bowling ball.
All right, talk to me about the semi-finals or the quarterfinals quickly this weekend. Who's playing who and when, more or less? Or most importantly, when is South Africa playing New Zealand?
Top 3 Women's World Cup matches that you need to watch this weekend. Now, of course, it's the quarterfinals, so there's only 4 matches, so watch all of them, for goodness sake. But if you can only watch 3, make it these 3. First off, New Zealand versus South Africa, quarterfinal number 1, 1 o'clock in the afternoon UK time, so 2 o'clock South African time. This is a huge game. It's going to be played in Exeter at Sandy Park, which is the home of Exeter, who play in the English Premiership. New Zealand, clearly the favourites, but it's New Zealand versus South Africa. This is a huge game. And by the way, the men are playing each other earlier that morning as well. So it could be a long day, guys. But yeah, the Black Ferns, huge statement doing what they did to Ireland. South Africa, I think, have been planning this game. They rested players for their final game against France to get them ready for this. It might not be about winning this game. It might be about making a statement in this game for South Africa, getting tries, troubling the Black Ferns, getting them on their back foot, rattling them. If you can get 2 tries in the first half against them, that's going to make it exciting. That's going to make it worthwhile watching anyway. So that's game number 1. Like I said, 1 o'clock on Saturday. Game number 2, Australia versus Canada. This is at 4 o'clock on Saturday as well. This is being played at Ashton Gate. This is the game that I might go to. So Australia, I think, did a lot better against England than people expected, 47-7. But I think Australia's attack was a bit slow and ponderous against England. I think a better team would have scored a few tries against England based on that performance. Canada were really tested by Scotland. And so far, the trends that I'm seeing in this Women's World Cup is when a team is tested, it makes them better in the next game. So I expect Canada to take a step up after that really tough game against Scotland, where they still won reasonably comfortably, but it was a hell of a match. Expecting Canada to win this one. Canada are one of the big 4 in women's rugby, but there will be tries. I promise you that there will be tries. That's at 4 o'clock on Saturday. And then finally, France versus Ireland. So an all 6 nations clash. This is at 1 o'clock on Sunday, so 2 o'clock South African time. Again, being played in Exeter. This was quite a close game in the Six Nations. When these two played in the Six Nations, the difference was the goal kicking. Ireland missed, I think, all of their kicks at goal, or all but one, whereas France nailed all of theirs. A player who I got my photo with yesterday, Morgan Bourgeois. She is the best goal kicker in women's rugby, I would say, in my opinion, but if you can genuinely suggest someone else, I'd be surprised. It's funny, you know, it's a bit like Thomas Ramos, because he's the best goal kicker, in my opinion. We'll have a conversation about Andre Pollard later. He's the best goal kicker in men's rugby. He plays fullback for France. France women's fullback is also their goal kicker, also the best in the world, in my opinion. So Ireland will be smarting after getting beaten so heavily by the Black Ferns, whereas France are looking to build on their confidence from their incredibly strong performance against the Springboks. This is at 1 o'clock on Sunday. Probably out of the semi-finals, I would say that this is going to be the closest one. So tune in for it.
Okay, let's talk about the men's game. And we don't normally talk about the South African men's game, but I wanted to hear your opinion about what you thought happened on Saturday. Not too long, just briefly, because my hospital pass is coming up and it's going to be based on this game. I know you've been dreading this, but talk to me about that game first. What did the Springboks do right or wrong, and what did the All Blacks do right?
I was really disappointed with the Springboks. I was sat there after the first half. I was sat there thinking I was promised a game for the ages here, and I'm not getting it. The chat about this, I had Harry on my pod in December, and he was already talking about this fixture, this Eden Park, and the framing was it of this decides who is the greatest team of all time, the 2015 All Blacks or the current Springboks. And the Springboks, for me, did not turn up for a game as if it was the biggest game outside of the Rugby World Cup final. That's what I saw on social media. This is the biggest game since the World Cup final. The Springboks did not turn up in this game as if that was I did not see a team that was prepped. I did not see a team that was here to make history. They were looking around at each other in that first half going, what are we supposed to be doing? Where are you standing? Do you want the ball? Where am I passing this? It was so disappointing. Here's my hot take. You ready? If Manie Libbok played like that, he would have been taken off after 30 minutes. Andre Pollard had one good 50-22 that was world class. Other than that, he played badly in this game. Let's just call a spade a spade. It was a very poor performance from Andre Pollard. Did not threaten the line. All he offered was kicks that, other than that 150-22, didn't achieve anything. Malcolm Marx, when was the last time that you played really, really well for the Springboks? It's been a while. If I'm looking at Marnus van der Merwe, okay, you might say he's not got the experience. The only way that you can solve the experience thing is by not being sat on the stand, it's by being on the pitch. And the fact is that Marnus van der Merwe at club level is playing better than Malcolm Marx. I'm not going to lie to you guys and tell you that the Japanese league is physically at the same level as the URC. We can talk about how brilliant the Japanese league is and, from an attacking point of view and how innovative it is. I'll sit here and talk about that all day. The URC is more physical. As a forward, as a front rower, you're honing your game better by playing in the URC. And Marnus van der Merwe, I think, was URC team of the season or a contender for it.
Nothing to say.
What do you want me to say? So, yeah, massively disappointed by the Boks. I was expecting this to be the game, the performance of the year for the Boks, and it just wasn't it. It was maybe their poorest. So disappointed. The line out at times was a shambles. The attacking shape wasn't there. Didn't start getting going until Sasha came on at 10. Yeah, just massively underwhelmed. If I flip the question around, what mark out of 10 would you give New Zealand in that game? 7 at best. And when I seen people saying we nearly got the draw, you didn't come here for a draw. Don't talk to me about the draw. Don't revise history. You know, you wanted to win. You wanted to win well at Eden Park and break the streak. And after that first try, where Billy got nutmegged by an entire man, it was over. From that moment, it was over, and it was so disappointing.
Talking about what the All Blacks did right. I mean, those counter-rucks did well. The All Blacks seem to have analysed this team down to the finest detail, and they knew exactly how to play against them, didn't you? Did you pick that up?
What I'm finding fascinating about the All Blacks and their current iteration under Razor is the mindset going into games. I first noticed this when they went away to Ireland in November last year, and they were quite content to just kick threes all night, and they would have won that game without scoring a try. They got a try through Jordan in the end, but they were prepared to play that game and not score a try and just kick threes to win it. What was the game state in that game? It was raining, it was cold, and it was up against a team that was ranked higher than them in the standings, or perceived to be better than them anyway. What happened in this game? They're up against a team that's perceived to be better than them, you know, notwithstanding very recent results. It was raining, it was cold. And that kind of, in that situation, that kind of makes up your game plan for you. Is we're going to be playing on the back foot. We're going to defend like demons. We're going to go like hell at every breakdown. We're going to go like hell in every tackle. And we're going to play the percentages. And once the All Blacks got those 2 early scores and got 14-0 up or 14-3 up, their game plan for the rest of the match was decided. They didn't have to think. All we have to do is defend and kick long. And then all the pressure is on the Springboks. And that's what they did. And when I've spoken previously on this pod and in other places about how the All Blacks play their best at the moment, when they cut down the ruck count, when they cut down the pass count, they had the minority of possession, they had the minority of territory, and they only had 75 rucks in the whole game, which for the All Blacks is a lot lower than we're used to them to seeing. That's more in line with what we're seeing from the likes of France and Argentina and teams like that. So that's fascinating to me, the mindset and the thinking process for the All Blacks in these bigger games when they're up against teams who are expected to beat them and they have to find a different way to win. When the All Blacks are currently up against teams who they're expected to beat, that seems to be when they struggle the most. They overthink it, they overplay. Whereas in this game, in this scenario, they didn't have to do that because a win any old way was fine. They didn't have to worry about razzle dazzle. They didn't have to worry about their own game plan. All that mattered was the W. So that's a trend that I'm going to be interested to watch going forward. And that's why I am very interested to see them play against Australia, because when Australia come, they're going to be expected to beat Australia. But Australia are looking smart at the moment. And that's a very deliberate use of word. They're looking smart. So I now think that Australia are going to beat the All Blacks, and I'm very excited to see that.
Cool. That's a big call. That's quite interesting. All right. Thanks for that. Now I want to give you this week's hospital pass. I'm a South African. Now on Twitter, whenever South African team loses, we're getting accused of being accused of, bashing the ref. I wanted to know what your take was on the performance of the ref. We're not trying to bash him, but there's actually in the report, Hendrik Cronje, the venerable Hendrik Cronje, wrote an article to say the referee in this match coached the All Blacks and penalized the Springboks for the same thing. So he would say to the All Blacks, remove your hand, remove your hand, remove your hand, remove your hand, where the Springboks, penalty, or whatever the case might be. So firstly, I wanted to ask you in terms of this hospital pass, did you see that as well? What was your impressions of that referee? And secondly, is it justified to say that Africans attack the ref? That we always blame the referee, or was there some merit to it in this case?
I would say that all nations bash the referee. We all do it, even myself and you, and let's just be honest with people. we don't come out to ref bash on the podcast, and we don't go and do it publicly on social media and things. If you check our WhatsApps, do we talk about referees all the time? Yes, of course we do. When you're watching your own team, you're always going to be more biased. We spoke about the referee in the women's game yesterday. All fans bash the referee the same. The reason that it might seem more with South Africans is because there's more of you online. Look, the World Rugby published that report of when refs were criticised last year, not last year, in the 2023 World Cup. The spike of it came after France lost to the Springboks, so that was French fans doing it. Of course, we don't get to see that because we don't speak French, so we don't see what they're saying. And also, the treatment that Wayne Barnes got after the World Cup final. Again, when the All Blacks won, when the Springboks won, he was getting the abuse of the All Blacks fans. All nations, attack the ref to the same extent. It's just there's probably as many South African fans on Twitter as there are people living in Scotland, New Zealand, Ireland, Wales, that kind of thing. So it's just your weight of numbers. I'm told by Rian Lowe that it's the same in cricket for India. If you say something against India in cricket, they will come for you, and there's over 1 billion of them. So it's just the same. So no, I don't think that the Springbok fans are particularly bad. We all complain about referees. What did I think of this game? I'm struggling to recall particular moments. I think it was the last ruck turnover where they counter rucked. I think they went straight to ground, and I think that should have been a penalty to the Springboks. When I saw who the referee was, I was surprised, if I'm being honest. I've seen him referee a lot, and I was surprised that he was given a game of this magnitude. I would normally have expected Angus Gardner. Obviously, you can't have Ben O'Keefe or Nika Amashiteli or Luke Pearce, or pick another ref from Europe or something. I was surprised that this ref in particular was selected for this game. I'm not sure that he was. If this is the biggest game in the world this year, which you could argue that it was, I'm not sure that he's the best referee in the world. I'm not sure that he's top 5 referees in the world. So, I've seen worse, but I was surprised by the choice of ref based on where I think he is in the pecking order compared to other refs who could have done this game.
Interesting that I read as well in that same article was the All Blacks now 5 from 5 when he was the referee, because they know how he blows. So, for example, the Springboks would get an advantage, and then they would transgress again immediately to sort of negate that advantage, if you know where I'm going. So they know how he blows, how he thinks, and it played out that way. And little things. TAS Analytics posted a video this morning where they clearly closed the gap in the line-out, but it wasn't picked up. Little things like that. But they knew him well enough to know that he wouldn't blow that. And that becomes a little bit of a problem. Okay, it's an advantage if you're good enough to analyze games to that extent and you know what the referee's going to blow like. But if you've got glaring deficiencies almost, I don't want to bash the guy, it's not what I'm getting at, then maybe somebody should be addressing it. I'm not saying that to put a Nigel Owens aim, it's not what I'm getting at. But for example, when they do review, listen, Cole, you need to watch the gaps in the lineouts. Now it's happened before and it's happened again. I'm just wondering about that kind of addressing those kind of shortcomings.
Yeah, you can say the same for players. Players have got deficiencies in certain things, so why don't they fix it? What I'm minded to say, to be honest with you, is haven't you got Jaco Piper sat up in the coach's box?
Yeah, we do.
Why is he there? Is he there to coach scrums? I don't think he is. I think he's there as a refereeing consultant. So if you've got Jaco Piper sat up in your coaching box, why are you getting outsmarted so easily when it comes to officiating?
Yeah, but that's the thing. Jaco would interpret it this way, but Carl Dixon or whoever.
But he should know. Jaco Piper's probably shared hotel rooms.
He should have known that referee. You're right. Like the All Blacks knew that referee. No, you're absolutely right. That's a very good point, actually. I didn't think of that. All right. Thanks for that. You handled that hospital pause well this week. I'll give you a passing mark for it. Lastly, the top 14 started this week, and that's apart from your little WhatsApp or a DM that you got to take down your clip. Just tell us about that briefly. The first weekend of the top 14, one of the best leagues, or probably the best league in the world, depending who you ask.
Yeah, not tons to write home about. Not many upsets. I think there was 2 away from home wins. That's the big thing in French rugby is that away wins are very rare. So 2 out of 7 is. Oh no, there might have been 2 or 3. Anyway, Toulouse won away in Clermont. Talking about referees, I think it's against the law to beat Toulouse in France sometimes. It's kind of Toulouse score a try, play on. If someone scores a try against Toulouse, better check it. But, big team bias happens in the URC with Leinster, happens all over the place. So that was good. UBB against La Rochelle was probably the blockbuster game of the weekend because 2 teams that I expect to be in the semi-finals come crunch time. We were told that UBB were racked with injuries, but when they named the team sheet, most of the big players were there, so they all made mugs out of us. But 2 teams to watch. But some people said that game was dull. I would class it as an arm wrestle where it took real moments of quality for the teams to unlock each other. So if you're a purist, I think it was a good game. So they're kind of the 2 standout ones. Bayonne won away in Perpignan, which if you're not a nerdy French fan, you won't care about, but it was Bayonne's first win in Perpignan since the 70s. And Stade Francais got a big win over Montauban as well. Montauban are the promoted team. Their budget is half of what the next smallest budget in the league is. I was looking on their club shop online. It's an absolute shambles. Like it's the worst online shop I've ever seen. Like for the pictures of the jerseys, it's a picture of a jersey on a mannequin actually in the shop. You can see people in the background, and there's like glare from a light on it, so you can't actually see the jersey. So it's like I could Montauban. I'll
Amateur hour.
Hey, buy me a plane ticket. I'll come and do better immediately. There's an offer. So yeah, so there's that. Other than that, it's only one round in. I don't think there were any major upsets. I think there's bigger things to come in the top 14. So just keep an eye on it and check out the Top 14 Digest podcast to get all of the latest gossip. But apart from that, a fairly routine opening weekend, I would say.
You never said who won, UBB and La Rochelle.
Oh, UBB did.
All right. Is there any transfer news? I'm not sure that there is any.
Newcastle Red Bulls, I should say, the northern wing of the Pretoria Blue Bulls, have made yet another signing. They've signed Christian Wade. They put a post on social media because obviously, as I always say, rugby is in the shadow of football here in the UK, and the transfer window in the English Premier League football has closed, but there is no transfer window in rugby. So they put out a social media post saying the football team has stopped signing players, but we haven't. So they're just leaning into it. So they've signed 11 already. And Steve Diamond has said that after the Rugby Championship, there will be more players joining who are currently playing in the Rugby Championship. No. That will be Argentinians because Newcastle, even before they got taken over, had a real history of signing Argentinian players. I think the most represented club side in Los Pumas for years was Newcastle Falcons. So they will be signing more Argentinians. Okay. Basically, I've made that clear. So that's the main one. Other than that, I'm not seeing tons of anything rumors. Oh, we could talk about Deandre Rudolph this week, though, can't we?
Yeah, we can. You talked about him by accident last week, but this week we can actually confirm it. The Bulls announced their URC squad this morning. Quite a few surprises there, but yeah, Deandre Rudolph's definitely there. So he's now been confirmed.
And if you want to hear more about Newcastle Falcons, keep your eyes peeled for a video on a channel very close to home this Saturday.
Which channel would that be?
Mine. HG Rugby.
Yeah, no problem. Remember to go to HG Rugby and become one of those followers that can go up to you in the UK and,
yeah, and buy membership, please.
Yeah.
It's only 99p a month.
Yes, I saw that, yeah. All right. Anyway, thank you for that. That was quite insightful and entertaining, as always, even if it's on a Monday and a Monday afternoon for that. So thanks, you. Appreciate it, man.
Cheers, man.
The Loose Pass Rugby Podcast with Hugh Griffin.